Welcome to day 6 of our 12 days of Act 10. We're halfway to the final, so hopefully you've started studying in earnest. You're doing a little bit each day, some problems, some reviews, some more problems. Hopefully a split like that, 2/3 problems and 1/3 review. Today we're going to continue with the topic of welfare, and I've called this one Welfare the Easy Way because there is a really easy way to find social surplus and deadweight loss. We teach you the components just to make life difficult, but if you were a real economist or you're taking an upper level class, you would calculate welfare this way just by looking at two curves, so I call it the easy way. So the goal for this video is to take something complex, like this diagram on the left. Looks like chaos, right? There's, 4 curves and a whole bunch of dotted lines. There's all these prices labeled. And we're going to turn it into something simple, this diagram over here, and then use the simple diagram to calculate social surplus and deadweight loss. It's easier to work with simple things, so this transformation is worth the time to make. So, the first step is that you need to clear your mind. Okay, so just clear your mind, let go of all your pretenses about how social surplus is complicated and deadweight loss doesn't make any sense. These problems are hard and you're going to lose points. Clear your mind of all those worries. So I'll give you 10 seconds to do that. And now I want you to focus on MSB and MSC alone, because these are the only two curves that matter for social surplus. You get surplus to society when your benefits at the margin exceed your costs. Your social surplus goes down, on the other hand, if you paid a higher cost than you received a benefit. Who these benefits and costs go to, who's paying the price, and who's getting the benefits, totally irrelevant. Prices are completely irrelevant for social surplus. All that matters is how much did you produce, how much did it benefit you, how much did it cost. So, and I want to tie this back into day 1's video. So if you haven't watched day 1 of the 12 days that was on the golden rule, please go ahead and do that. The golden rule is MB equals MC. So the relevant version of MB equals MC for social surplus is almost so obvious I feel bad like having to say it. It's MSB. These are the benefits to society at the margin, so the marginal benefit to society. And the costs are MSC, right? It's like the name almost gives it away. It's marginal social cost. It's how much society was paying at the margin for that unit. And the golden rule tells us that if we want to make these maximized, we have to set them equal. So if you see the MSB line cross the MSC line, that's where you know the optimum is. And we called the Q where that happens the efficient Q. That's going to maximize your social surplus. If you see the Q somewhere else, like further to the left or further to the right, then you are not at the maximum. You're like kind of wasting social surplus. And we'll talk about the 2 different ways that can happen, namely left or right, in a few slides. So now suppose we want to calculate social surplus. We can do it the same way we always would for any amount, for any amount we're calculating, so like profit or, mostly we just did profit, I guess. We get like we did it for consumer surplus, producer surplus. We looked at the benefit to society, which is up here on that first unit. So let's just label this unit number 1. We'll say Q star is 4. All right. So in the first unit, we got a benefit up here. We paid a cost down here. How do we know this is the cost? Because we've eliminated all the other curves except the cost curve and the benefit curve. So we know benefits are this one, costs are this one. So we pay a cost down there, and then anything that we get a benefit above that cost is going to be surplus. So this is just surplus to society, very similar to surplus to consumers and surplus to producers. If the consumer got more than he paid, more value than he paid, he got a surplus. If society pays less or gets more benefit than it paid in cost, it gets surplus. And now we can continue this for the second unit, third unit, and so on. And basically, as you'd expect, we shade in this whole region. And you might say, okay, what about the little corners, like right here? Remember, our friend Archimedes told us that these corners basically go away as the number of little rectangles we draw gets big. So here's our social surplus. And now you might say, what about all this crap out here on the right? Who cares? None of that stuff was produced, so it can't hurt or help us. If we only produced 4 units, we're going to get costs and benefits from each of those 4 units, and that's going to determine our social surplus. The stuff out here, the 5th, 6th, and 7th unit that never existed, those cannot affect our social surplus. So now we just find the area of this triangle. I made it green because it's benefits exceeding costs. It's good for you, so green is like good, go. If it was bad, as in costs exceed benefits, I would have shaded it in red. So we get this nice nifty color-coded formula. Social surplus is green minus red. So here there's no red, so we just do the area of the green triangle. So now we'll do a little more complicated example. We start out getting this benefit, and then we keep going because all these units were produced, so we get all of this as benefits. But we didn't just produce up to this point, right? We produced all these units, so we've got to calculate the social surplus from them. But notice how here the costs exceed the benefits. So on that next unit, we're going to pay this much in costs and only get this much in benefits. So that really kind of sucks. And we want to indicate that by making it red so that we know that these are costs exceeding benefits. This is like bad for us on net. And then we can do that for the rest of all these units, because all of these units have higher cost than benefits. All the diagrams we'll give you in this class start out with benefits exceeding costs and eventually have costs exceed benefits. So once you cross over, once they cross and you hit that maximum, you know that from that point on, everything's going to be red. It always starts green and goes to red. So now we can calculate the social surplus. We find the area of this green, subtract the area of this red. This is good stuff. We're glad we produced. This is bad stuff that it was stupid to produce. And now we have our social surplus, green minus red. And now we'll do a final one. Here we only produce a very small number of units, right? So say that this is like just maybe like 2 units. Is any of the stuff out here going to matter? Hopefully you said no, because none of it was produced. So units 3, 4, 5, and so on. They just don't matter to social surplus because they were never produced. So they're just in, they're in alternate dimensions. They were part of social surplus. But in this universe, they're not. So as normal, we get some benefits, pay some costs. The difference between the two is our social surplus on that unit. So our marginal social surplus. Then we can repeat for the other units, and we just keep shading in, as always. So this is our social surplus. It's all green because benefits exceeded costs here, and then we stop because we only made 2 units. So we get this green social surplus on those 2 units. There is no red because we didn't get to the point out here where costs exceed benefits. So we do green minus red, red being 0. So we just need to add up, find the area of this green shape. So now we get to the concept of deadweight loss. Deadweight loss drives everybody nuts. Mostly because it's not like a thing. People are looking for a thing like, where is the deadweight loss? And deadweight loss isn't a thing. It's usually the absence of a thing. It's the absence of social surplus. So people, you normally wouldn't ask where is the darkness. It's better to ask where is the light, and then where the light is absent, there's darkness. The light is like social surplus. It's the good stuff for you. The deadweight loss is like darkness. It's whatever social surplus you didn't get. There's 2 ways to not get social surplus. Type 1 is to just not make enough. And I like to label that gold because, it's like gold you could have had. It's money society just leaves on the table and doesn't get. We see an example of it over here. On this diagram from the previous slide, we saw that we've got a whole bunch of social surplus in the green. But look, benefits here still exceed costs there. So we could have gotten more surplus here. We just gave it away. We just didn't take it. We left money on the table. And then that's actually true here for this next unit and this next unit and so on. So all of this area here, up until the efficient Q, is going to be gold. This is just like missing surplus. So I call that a type 1 deadweight loss. The other type is the red. So too much. It's possible that you keep producing a whole bunch. So let's go back 2 slides. You produce a whole bunch of stuff. All of this is great. Benefits up here exceed costs down here, so we're really making a killing at the margin. But then we keep going. We just kind of get carried away, and we're paying these really high marginal costs, getting very small marginal benefits. So all this red area is negative, and it's just destroying social surplus. So So that's our second type of deadweight loss. If you want the total deadweight loss, you just add the two together, gold plus red. And now, of course, you might say, isn't it only possible to do one or the other? Like, you can't make too much and not make enough? That is true. The only way you could do both of these at the same time is with trade. With trade, remember, how much you consume and how much you produce are different. So you could not make enough production and consume too much, or vice versa. But if we're not doing trade, yes, you'll only get one or the other. Just make sure that you're aware of which one it is when you're drawing it in or shading it in, because you want to have some conceptual understanding of what you're doing, not just doing some pattern matching. So in summary, you just start out by clearing your mind. Then you focus on MSB and MSC because they are all that matter. And of course the Q, you need to know how much you produce. Draw those in and replicate those on a new piece of paper and ignore everything else on the graph. Ignore prices, ignore supply, ignore demand, ignore, that 1,001 little dashed lines you drew in to kind of organize yourself when reading that graph. And now that you have a simple graph, shade in green where MSB exceeds MSC for the stuff you produced, shade red where MSC exceeds MSB for stuff you produced, and shade gold if there's stuff that you should have produced that you didn't. So where benefits exceed costs, but you just didn't actually build it. And then there's two things you can calculate very, very easily. Social surplus is green minus red, so good for you minus bad for you. Deadweight loss is usually either one or the other. It's gold because you didn't produce enough, so you have missing, stuff that you could have benefited from, or it's red, you produced too much, so you just destroyed value by spending lots of money to get very little in return. That's all you need to know about deadweight loss and social surplus. That summarizes basically every analytical technique and everything you were supposed to learn in the entire first 10 chapters. It uses marginal thinking. It uses understanding how markets choose cues. It ties in why the market is good and when the market fails and by how much. I think this is really important, but in all likelihood, you won't need to use these techniques on the test. You're more likely to see some diagrams, some tables, and then it asks you to calculate piece by piece, PS, CS, etc. When you're asked to do that, don't use any of this direct methods for social surplus. Just be careful and methodical and do CS is this, PS is that, government revenue is 0, externality benefit is, if there's no externality, 0, and then add them up. Alright, so thanks for watching. We're now halfway through the 12 days of Act 10. I hope your studying is going well, and I will see you soon, most likely.